The end of 2017 is upon us, and there have been a lot of superhero movies that came out this past year, some of which are still in theaters, and there are going to be more coming out in 2018 and years after that, and several years for the foreseeable future because superhero movies make a lot of money. And since I love superhero movies, I thought it'd be good to have a video on my channel, just like a year in review of the ones that have come out this year. We've had about 6 or 7, right? I'm going to talk about each one of them in this video and talk about what they mean for superhero movies in general and for their respective cinematic universes. Let's get started. I'm going to go in order of when they were released. Here in the US, because I'm an American and I guess that's what I know best, is like the US release dates. So, we're going to start with the first superhero movie that came out this year, Logan. Logan was certainly the most serious and edgy superhero movie that came out this year. It was very dark, it was a very dark Western. It was very sad and depressing. And, it was about the end of the X-Men, basically, at least in this alternate universe. I don't think the Logan timeline is supposed to be the end of the X-Men in the main, like, Fox X-Men timeline. Or I guess it's going to be the Marvel X-Men timeline eventually, right? Because Disney bought Fox. Well, that deal's actually it's gone through, but the government has to approve it. And it might take a year or two for that transition to take place. So it's not completely a done deal yet. Logan reminds people that superhero movies can be dark and still beloved by audiences, right? We have a lot of people these days who constantly want their superhero movies to be fun and upbeat and happy. Logan was not a fun and upbeat and happy movie at all, but it was very critically successful. Although I enjoyed it, I was kind of sad because I'm a big X-Men fan. I didn't like the fact that the X-Men went out like the way they went out in this movie. But it's an alternate timeline, alternate universe, so I guess it doesn't really count. We all know, and I know, the X-Men aren't really going to end like that. They're going to keep making X-Men movies forever as long as they keep making money. It was supposed to be Hugh Jackman's swan song as Wolverine. Hugh Jackman said this is the last time he was going to be playing Wolverine, and he doesn't want to come back. And we'll see if he holds true to that. I think he said before that a little while ago that he'd like Wolverine to do or be in an Avengers movie. But then I think he gave a quote after that saying, nah, I'm not going to play Wolverine again. He changed his mind or something. But we'll see, what happens now that Marvel is, going to get the X-Men movies and the X-Men characters. If they're going to want Hugh Jackman to continue playing Wolverine and offer him a lot of money to come back, or if they'll just be like, or if he'll resist them if they offer him money, or if they'll just be like, we're going to reboot the whole thing. And if they reboot all the X-Men, that means they're going to have to find somebody else to play Wolverine. What does Logan mean for superhero movies in general? Well, Logan, I think, is eligible to be nominated for Oscar, and I think they're going to push for him to be nominated for one. I don't think Logan would ever win, but if Logan is actually nominated for Best Picture, it would certainly do a lot, I think, to elevate the prestige of comic book movies, modern comic book movies. But I don't know. I think the Academy might be too good, or to feel that they're too elite to ever consider a comic book movie for serious Oscar contention, at least not in Best Picture. Comic book movies can still get nominated and win in sound effects, visual effects, sound editing, costume, that sort of thing, which doesn't surprise, that doesn't surprise me. So we'll see what Logan does. But anyways, I think Logan did prove, beyond the whole Oscar thing, that people will still support, serious superhero movies, and that superheroes can go R-rated these days. In the era of, light-hearted, Marvel movies and stuff, you can still do a serious, depressing, dark, and well-done R-rated superhero movie. On to the next movie that came out this year, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Sequel to the much-beloved Guardians of the Galaxy 1 that introduced the whole world to a ragtag band of space pirates. I think space pirates is the best way to describe the Guardians, right? But anyways, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 continued the first movie, trend or just flavor of superhero movies, or, well, I don't know if they're really superheroes, but comic book movies that have a lot of heart. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of, they tug at the heartstrings. With this one, with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I felt that they were really, the theme that I got out of it was fathers and sons or fathers and children. Although none of the fathers in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 were good fathers, in my opinion. But it was about, people, how they relate to their fathers. Not parents in general, it was kind of just fathers here. In Ego's case, Star-Lord's biological daddy, I think that Ego was the first character recently who might start to end the trend of Marvel having, lackluster villains, right? That's one of the big criticisms of the MCU is that they don't really have usually great villains, except for Loki. And, except for Loki, most of them aren't memorable. I think Ego definitely stood out and made a lasting impression from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And he was followed up by Hela in Thor Ragnarok, whom I'll get to later, who was also a memorable villain, or sort of memorable. So I think maybe Marvel has cracked their villain formula, and that's for the best. As for what Guardians of the Galaxy, the series, means for MCU in general, well, they're going to make a Guardians 3, of course, because the second one, made a lot of money. And I think James Gunn, the director of 2, who's going to come back for 3, gave an interview where he said they were going to introduce more cosmic characters, and things that were happening in Guardians 3 were going to be part of what we're going to set up future Marvel movies for the next 10, 12 years. And he's probably right. I mean, the Guardians in the Marvel Universe, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they represent, or the gateway to, the cosmic, realm of Marvel. So you would introduce a lot of the cosmic characters through them mostly. Except for Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's a cosmic character, and that's a Marvel movie coming up, and I think she'll be her own thing. So, but, aside from everything that Marvel's going to put in her movie that's cosmic, the rest of it's probably going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. Number 3, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was the shot in the arm that the DC movie universe needed, or maybe it was the defibrillator that revived the DC movie universe's dying heart. I'm sorry, I'm just saying that's what a lot of other people might think. I am a big DC fan, and I've liked all the DC movies. I'm just saying, but I, of course, am aware of a lot of the reputation that the DC movie universe has, and the way a lot of people talk about these movies, and I just couldn't resist the metaphor. But believe me, I love DC. And I liked the movies before, but I want Warner Brothers to keep making DC movies, so I understand that they need to make movies that please more than just me. And Wonder Woman did that. Wonder Woman was a great win for DC and for comic book movies in general, because it was a movie starring a female superhero with a female director, and a lot of female viewers in the audience loved this movie. There were women who said they cried watching it because, tears of joy or whatever, because they love seeing a powerful and also feminine woman being the star of a movie like this and being competent, which is something a lot of women wish they had. And I think that's great, although it does confuse me because we've had other female action heroes in other movies like, The Bride in Kill Bill, Ellen Ripley in the Aliens movies, Sarah Connor in T2, and, Mila Jovovich has been in all those Resident Evil movies, Kate Beckinsale in Underworld, the Tomb Raider movies with Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, and there's others I've probably forgotten. And you didn't see a lot of this, I had such an empowering experience watching this movie. Well, you didn't hear about it at the level you've been hearing it from Wonder Woman, which I'm surprised by. Not that Wonder Woman wasn't great and empowering, but I'm wondering, why does Wonder Woman make women feel like this? And all these other female action movies that have come before apparently didn't. Or if you believe the hype, this is what the hype is saying. Well, that's not all hype. I have actually spoken and heard from actual women who said they did cry watching Wonder Woman, so it's true. But anyways, I'm not down on the movie or anything. I'm not saying it shouldn't have felt women feel empowered. It's great that it did. And I'm a big DC fan, so I'm great that DC had their first critical and financial win with Wonder Woman, and it actually makes them the leader in superhero movies when it comes to representation of a solo female action hero. Right? Who would have thought that DC would be the leader in this years ago, but now they are. That might change once Marvel makes Captain Marvel, and even next year with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Wasp is co-lead. So, Marvel is definitely going to up its female action hero, starring in a movie game. But DC went there first, and they're going to keep going there with Wonder Woman 2 and Batgirl. Wonder Woman is the second movie on this list, and I think the only one that's a serious contender, or maybe, but there's hype for it to be an Oscar contender too. But I think, like Logan, Wonder Woman's going to face a challenge of, Academy of voters are going to be like, this is a comic book movie. We can't give this an Oscar trophy. Maybe it'll get nominated at best, but I don't know if it'll even get that. I mean, I think Logan and Wonder Woman are both going to face the same battles in terms of getting recognized by the Academy, and I don't think they have a chance in hell of winning either one of them, but who knows. But like I said for Logan, which is true for Wonder Woman, I don't need a trophy to validate my love of these movies or these movies in general because I know that people love them and Marvel and DC are going to keep making them. So my whole attitude is like, who cares about a trophy? I'd love it if one of them won or got nominated, but if they don't, I'm going to be perfectly fine. Spider-Man Homecoming was a very good movie and got good reviews and made a lot of money, but not a lot of people talked about it, which I was stunned by. Spider-Man Homecoming, it came out like I think early July, right? And there people talked about it. It got a lot of buzz like a couple of weeks before it was released and maybe a week or two after. And then the conversation just completely died around it. And people were just still talking about Wonder Woman, which came out like a month before Spider-Man Homecoming did. Like the buzz and the hype and the goodwill towards Wonder Woman was so powerful, it basically carried it through the whole summer and it drowned out other big blockbusters, or at least other comic book movies like Spider-Man. Spider-Man was swallowed in terms of the hype machine by Wonder Woman. Spider-Man wound up making more money globally than Wonder Woman did, but nobody paid attention to that. It was like Wonder Woman everything. And I liked Wonder Woman, but I liked Spider-Man Homecoming too. And I gave my very first video on this channel was about Spider-Man Homecoming. I gave a review of it and said how great I thought it was. And a lot of people thought it was great, but a lot of people didn't, perhaps, because even though Spider-Man Homecoming made more money than Wonder Woman globally, it didn't, I think, domestically. So a lot of American audiences, I guess, didn't really seem to want Spider-Man to come home as much as they wanted to see Wonder Woman. And I guess that explains it, because a lot of the American press was the one driving the Wonder Woman talk in the media. So I don't know, maybe it was reflective of how audiences felt. I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming certainly didn't do bad in the US, but it didn't do what Wonder Woman did in the US. But I don't know, and I'm happy for Wonder Woman because I'm a DC fan, but I do think fair is fair. I thought Spider-Man Homecoming was very good. Now, as for what this means, since Spider-Man Homecoming, just in general, since Spider-Man Homecoming made over $800 million total, Marvel's going to do a second one. Marvel and Sony together made Spider-Man Homecoming. They're going to do a second one. And I think what this means for the character of Peter Parker in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is I think because Peter Parker is a teenager and Spider-Man Homecoming takes place in his teen years, and as the guy who plays him, Tom Holland, gets older, Spider-Man will go to college and stuff, they can make the Spider-Man universe kind of like the teen corner of the MCU, right? They could introduce a lot of other teenage heroes in Spider-Man movies if they wanted to. Like, who's that big one? Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, right? Maybe America Chavez and other teen Marvel heroes in a Spider-Man movie, because Spider-Man's like, he's going to be the teen scene. Marvel can put all their teenage plots in Spider-Man movies and reach a whole different audience of younger people more, I guess, directly than they can with their other movies. I think a lot of teenagers do see other Marvel movies, of course. But, maybe they'll relate more to the struggles of characters in Spider-Man movies because they're in high school too. Next up, Thor Ragnarok. This may surprise you, but of all the movies on here I'm going to talk about, I like Thor Ragnarok the least. And I know you're probably going to want to throw something at this video or something to throw something at me, but I didn't get the hype. I thought Thor Ragnarok was a good movie, but I didn't get the way that people were practically just like losing their minds over it. This movie's so good. I didn't see that at all. I thought it was decent, but I don't know, I wasn't over the moon about it the way I was. Well, I don't know if I was over the moon about other movies on this list, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the other ones. I don't know, I guess I missed something. I did think it was a good movie, but I didn't really like the fact that, I know it was funny, but I felt that they kind of they overdid it with the jokes. Like, I almost felt like I was watching comedy and not an action movie, and I wasn't really that intrigued by Thor that much. The movie, I thought the character of Thor was great, but just the movie itself that surrounded him, I was kind of like, this is okay. I'd recommend it, but I wasn't that passionate about it. And I know that makes me like odd man out because everybody loved this movie, but I didn't love it as much. I did think that Hela was great too. Continuing the trend, like I said before, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 with Ego, I think Marvel has started to figure out or how to make their villains stand out just as much as their heroes. We've had two bad guy characters in the same year in two separate Marvel movies that I think really made an impression in their respective movies, which is great. And last but certainly not least, not to me, Justice League. I love Justice League, and I'm so unhappy that it didn't make as much money at the box office as I was expecting, and the critics trashed it. They took it out back and shot it. It's painful because I love Justice League. I love DC so much. I read Justice League comic books. I know all the characters who've been in the Justice League, and I loved it. But this is my video, so I'm going to talk about the movie. I thought the movie it had a lot of problems, and I noticed that, but I still thought in spite of that, there were good things too that for me made it a very enjoyable movie. And I think that a lot of critics heard it and, gave it poor word of mouth out the gate and harmed it in the eyes of people who were like, oh, I heard it got bad reviews, I'm not going to see it. And I wish that hadn't happened because I thought Justice League was at least decent. And I watched it multiple times and thought it was very fun. And one thing it did is it reintroduced us to a confident Superman who's a symbol of hope, the way Superman's supposed to be. I like the way Superman was in the previous DC movies, the ones that Zack Snyder did this one too, but Man of Steel and BVS. But that was Superman just becoming a superhero. He's often lost and confused. He was learning how to be a superhero. And he wasn't the Superman I guess a lot of people were used to seeing in movies and TV shows and pop culture. But I felt that Justice League was starting to give us that Superman again. And Justice League to me signaled the fact that Superman going forward, DC is going to try to have him reclaim his role as like a banner superhero, not just for DC superheroes, but all superheroes. Like Christopher Reeve was back in the old days. And that's what I think, because I think we got the start of him in this movie. And if you look at the way Superman's portrayed in TV right now by DC, in the Supergirl TV show played by Tyler Hoechlin, Henry Cavill plays him in the movies. Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, in terms of spirit and tone, is like the Superman a lot of people know. And I think that DC wouldn't introduce that version in Supergirl if they weren't going to do the same thing for Superman in all media, like in the movies. And so I'm happy that we got that in Justice League. That was one of many things I was happy about in Justice League. Justice League was also the first DC team movie that showed our heroes getting along and cooperating and not, trying to kill each other like in BVS or distrusting each other like in Suicide Squad. Now, I liked BVS and Suicide Squad, so that didn't bother me as much as it did a lot of other people, but I did notice the fact that we hadn't yet seen a DC movie universe or DC movie characters teaming up who actually seemed like a good working partnership who liked each other. Justice League gave us that. And I would like to see more coherent, positive relations between superheroes and DC movies going forward. And I think Justice League signals to me and to us that we're going to get more of that going forward. Not that superheroes are never going to be fighting each other again. I mean, superheroes fight each other in the comics all the time, but it usually winds up with them teaming up to get the bad guy together and, not hating each other anymore. And Justice League showed us that. But since Justice League underperformed financially, it does mean that the DC universe is going to do a lot of shakeups in terms of staffing, which we've seen the start of that. You saw news that they're reshuffling people at the top. I think John Berg isn't going to be involved with superhero movies anymore. I don't know what Jeff Johns' role is going to be with the DC movies going forward. He'll still be involved though. And I think they're looking for one person to head the whole DC movie line, the same way Kevin Feige does for Marvel and Kathleen Kennedy does for Star Wars. And we should be getting news about all this, how it shakes out in January, I think sometime next month. So we won't have too long to wait to figure out what the DC universe in terms of leadership in the movies is going to look like going forward. And since I'm a big DC fan, I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that they can turn that corner and turn around, because I love DC and want them to not just exist or survive, just be at the survival level in superhero movies. I want them to thrive and go straight to the top. So I hope it happens. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the 6 superhero movies we got this year. I liked all of them, some more than others, but they were all good stuff. And I'm very happy that the superhero movie genre, or I don't know if superhero movies are a genre exactly, but the trend is alive and healthy and going to happen for several years in the future, because I read comic books and I love seeing these characters in live action. And if you'd like to watch me make more videos about movies and TV shows and comic books, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.